This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutastrophe welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And today's birthday boy on January 31st, 1947 is this guy, Lynn Nolan Ryan. Of course, we know him as Nolan Ryan. He's now 74 years old. Born today, January 31st, 1947. He is a former MLB star pitcher, previous CEO of the Texas Rangers, and was an executive advisor to the Houston Astros. In his 27-year career, the Ryan Express pitched for 4 teams: the Mets, the Angels, the Astros, and the Rangers. And was named to the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. Ryan was a guy who consistently threw pitches that were close to 100 miles per hour, or 161 kilometers per hour to our metric people. He had good velocity. And then he could still throw his 12-6 curveball for a breaking ball. He won 324 games in his lifetime, 8-time All-Star, 5,714 strikeouts is a record by significant margin, because he leads the runner-up, which is Randy Johnson, by 839. Surprisingly, Ryan also leads in walks with 2,795, beating Steve Carlton by over 900 plus, walking over 50% more hitters than any other pitcher in MLB history. Ryan's lifetime batting average allowed is 204, or opposing batting average is 204, is still a major league record. Nolan, alongside Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Trevor Hoffman, Sandy Koufax are the only 5 pitchers to be in the Hall of Fame who have more strikeouts than innings pitched. And Ryan's one of 3 players in history to have his number retired by 3 teams, at least 3 teams, alongside Jackie Robinson, which the 42 is league-wide, and Frank Robinson. Like, who did Cleveland retire his number? Because I know he's retired by Baltimore and Cincy. That's Cleveland. He has thrown 7 no-hitters, which is the most ever. No one has gotten to 5. He's tied with Bob Feller for the most one-hitters with 12. Feller, I believe, had 4 no-hitters too. Ryan also pitched 18 two-hitters. He has never pitched a perfect game or Cy Young. Never did. That was kind of freaky. And is one of 29 players to have appeared in baseball games in 4 different decades. I wonder if anyone has attempted that mark. Well, no one's done that in the 2020s in 4 different decades. The 2010s, Ken Griffey Jr. did that. Jimmy Moore and Omar Vizquel. Griffey and Vizquel started in 1989, their first game, so that's 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I thought Griffey retired before 2010. Jimmy Moyer pitched forever. But anyway, so Nolan Ryan, I remember having his autobiography, and I liked it so much. Nolan was drafted in the 10th round of the baseball draft by the New York Mets. Basically, he was a good guy and all that. He actually got called up by the Mets for a few games. Ryan couldn't play much in the 67 season due to illness, arm injury, and service in the Army. Ryan came to the major leagues in 1968 and never dropped to minor league. He couldn't crack the pitching rotation of the Mets. Basically, Seaver and Kuzman were leading, and Gary Gentry were leading the Mets. However, Ryan was more of a reliever and spot starter. He actually threw 7 innings in relief in Game 3 of the LCS against the Atlanta Braves. Best of 5, of course, getting his first playoff win. It took him 12 years to get another one. Wow. He actually was credited with the save in Game 3 of the 69 World Series, pitching 2 1/3 shutout innings against the Orioles. The Mets took a 2-1 series lead with that win and then won Games 4 and 5. That was the only time Nolan Ryan appeared in the World Series, but he got a ring. Nolan Ryan struck out 15 batters one game for the Mets, which was the record. However, a few days later, Tom Seaver got 19 against the Padres. Ryan credited his time with the Mets with turning from a flamethrower into a pitcher. Ryan didn't want to be traded from the Mets. And when he got traded, he felt betrayed. In 5 seasons with the Mets, he was 29-38 with a 3.58 ERA. So he wasn't really that superstar. The Mets needed a third baseman because that was their want in their life. So they traded Nolan to California alongside a couple of prospects and outfielder Leroy Stanton for Joe Fregosi, who ironically would manage Nolan Ryan in Anaheim. So it was one of the worst in Mets history. But it wasn't unreasonable at the time because Ryan didn't have good numbers and Fregosi was just doing pretty well. Sadly, though, that trade, of course, would be biting the Mets in the butt because Fregosi was sucking at third base and they couldn't find a good third baseman until maybe Howard Johnson, if memory serves me correctly. In his first season with the Angels, Ryan was given a chance to be a starter for the first time in his career because he fulfilled his military obligation and didn't have to commute to Houston every other week. Well, it worked. He got 329 strikeouts to lead the majors. And at that point, that was the 4th highest total in the century. Within 5 seasons, that would end up being Ryan's 4th highest strikeout total, 329. He does still have the major league record for allowing fewest hits per 9 innings by a starter, 5.26, which is pretty good. Of course, Fregosi didn't do anything. But Nolan Ryan was pretty good, despite the fact that the Angels just couldn't get to the 500 mark. Nolan did pretty well. He got 22 wins in 74, that which tied the Angels' record, set by Clyde Wright. He would finish second in the Cy Young to Jim Palmer in 1973. That would be the closest he got to the Cy Young balloting. That kind of sucks. Because a lot of people say that basically they take the win-loss record more than anything else. More to heart. Well, Nolan Ryan in 73 had a magical year. Not 1, but 2 no-hitters, and he struck out 383 batters in 1 season, beating Koufax's record by just 1. The first no-hitter was against Kansas City in early 73, and then the second one was at Tigers. Was that Tiger Stadium or was it in Anaheim? I can't remember. But anyway, he faced the Tigers and struck out 17, the most in a no-hitter in history. But that was tied by Max Scherzer's 17 in October 2015 against the Mets. Nolan was very dominant. Norm Cash came up to the plate with 2 outs in the 9th with a piano leg instead of a normal bat. Oh. So he had to have a bat in hand, but popped out to end the game. So yeah, he looked pretty good for himself. He added a third no-hitter in 74 and a fourth in 75. I can't remember who he beat in those things. But anyway, the Angels finally got to the playoffs in Nolan's 8th and final year with the Angels. He pitched game 1 of the LCS against the Baltimore Orioles and threw 7 innings. However, his duel with Jim Palmer meant both guys were not in the decision. The bottom of the 10th was when John Lowenstein hit a walk-off home run. Ryan was going to pitch game 5 in the best of 5 series. However, the Angels lost in game 4, which meant that Nolan couldn't pitch. He became a free agent and all that. He was 138 and 121 with the Angels in 8 seasons with over 2,400 strikeouts. They got a free agency. However, Houston made a good deal. They gave him a 4-year deal of $4.5 million. That's about $1.125 million a year. Now, that quadrupled his Angel salary. Of course, this is equivalent to a 4-year $15.9 million contract in 2019, so he would earn almost $4 million. Strange as it sounded, Nolan Ryan actually hit a 3-run home run on national TV against the Dodgers in April of 1980 off Don Sutton. He only hit 2 home runs in his career. However, he got his 3,000th strikeout on July 4th, 1980 against Cesar Geronimo of the Reds. Ryan got a taste of postseason play in 1980. However, they lost in that classic LCS to the Philadelphia Phillies, unfortunately at the Astrodome and all that. Ryan pitched well in Game 2. He left the game tied at 2, but the game went to extra innings. Nolan and the Astros had a 5-2 lead entering the 8th inning in the penultimate game. Unfortunately, Ryan allowed 3 singles and walked in a run, but the bullpen blew up, giving the Phillies the win. Ryan then pitched his 5th no-hitter, breaking Koufax's mark, and that was on NBC against the LA Dodgers, which was amazing. He won the ERA title with 1.69. Astros and Dodgers had to face each other in the divisional round, because remember, this is the strike shortened season. So anyway, Nolan did pretty well in the opener through a complete Game 2 hitter, beating Fernando Valenzuela. Unfortunately, he pitched in the 5th and penultimate game against the Dodgers and lost that game. By the end of 82, Nolan, Ryan, and Steve Carlton would chase the strikeout leader, the all-time leader, Walter Johnson, and basically flip-flop and all that. On July 11, 1985, Ryan struck out Danny Heath for his 4,000th career strikeout. However, Nolan would help the Astros get to the 1986 LCS. He pitched Game 2 against the Mets and lost. Game 5, he did pretty well for himself, as Ryan and Gooden had a good old-fashioned pitching duel. However, Ryan would get the no decision, and the Astros lost in 12 innings. Nolan actually led the major leagues in ERA and strikeouts at the age of 40 back in 1987. Sadly, though, he was 8-16 because the Astros couldn't give him run support. In fact, in his 16 losses, the Astros scored an average of 1.69 runs a game. He actually ended up 5th in the Cy Young voting. And in 9 seasons as an Astro, he won 106 games and had over 1,800 strikeouts. Then Texas decided to do something about it. Ryan left Houston because of a contract dispute. So he basically pitched. So he signed with Texas. Why not? Stay in the state of Texas. So he became the first player to play for all 4 MLB original expansion teams. The Mets, the Angels, the Astros, and the Rangers. Well, Washington Senators / Texas Rangers. Because those were the teams that came, the 2 AL teams, the Angels and Rangers, came in 61. And the 2 NL teams came in 62 as expansion teams, so to add to the status quo of the 16 teams. Ryan was actually joined in this category by Darren Oliver, who was a better pitcher for the Rangers. So anyway, in 1989, he went 60-10. He got 301 strikeouts, pretty good. And he struck out Ricky Henderson for number 5,000. All that. He did pretty well. 5th in the AL and ERA and 3rd in strikeouts at age 44. But that was 91. In 1990, he threw his 6th no-hitter against the A's in Oakland and got win number 300 against the Brewers. The next year, in 91, somehow, in some way, he got his 7th no-hitter against my beloved Toronto Blue Jays at Arlington Stadium. He struck out Roberto Alomar for the final out. He actually got ejected from the game for the only time in his career in 92 because he was mad at Willie Wilson for a shutting match. Ryan decided to retire after the 93 season. After the 93 season. However, Nolan Ryan would have another moment on the mound on August 4th. At a home game against the White Sox, he hit Robin Ventura with a pitch. Ventura decided to charge the mound to fight Ryan. However, Ryan basically secured Ventura in a headlock and started to beat him and all that. Weird as it sounded, but Nolan Ryan basically was not ejected. Ventura was. And Nolan Ryan didn't give up a hit the rest of the game. Unfortunately, Nolan Ryan's arm gave out in a game against Seattle. And he tore a ligament. So basically, he tore his ligament and couldn't end his career right on the final day of the season. Unfortunately, Ryan's last start was actually his worst. He allowed a single 4 walks at a grand slam at the top of the first without recording an out. So anyway, Nolan pitched in 27 seasons, which was amazing. He was the final active player from the 1960s to retire, but he still had his job. His 7 no-hitters, first against Kansas City in Kansas City, against Detroit at Tiger Stadium, I was right. Then at home against the Twins in 74, against the Orioles in 75 at home at Anaheim Stadium. The Astrodome won, as I said. Number 6 was in Oakland, and number 7 was against the Blue Jays. He has a lot of records and all that, which was amazing. It's amazing. He was president and CEO of the Texas Rangers, and they got to 2 World Series. Sadly, though, they lost both of them. It was named special assistant for the Astros. All that. But he's got a freaking legacy. I mean, Frank Robinson. Yep, Reds, Orioles, and Indians. I was right. Getting those 3 things. So anyway, Nolan married his high school sweetheart and had 3 kids, Reed, Reese, and Wendy. Reed would not get to the majors, but he would pitch in the minors and tried his best. But he failed. So Nolan Ryan was a fantastic pitcher, and he'll always be one of the best pitchers in Major League history, bar none. I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.